Well, we were talking a little bit earlier this morning, and we came to the conclusion that it was 20 years ago that I first came here and spoke. So it's been 20 years, and it's interesting as you get older, and some of you younger folks don't know what I'm saying because you don't know anything. But for those of us that have been around for a little while, you look as the years go by at life differently. Your circle of friends is less. Yes. Yeah, you had the same kind of friends I did. In ministry, this has been 55 years this year that I've been in the full-time ministry. And when you grace a pulpit like this, and I will probably say things normally that most guest speakers would not say. You've had some great speakers here, but I'm not them. It's just been a different journey. We all have our own separate journeys, and I think we all appreciate those. But I think all of us would agree that we live in perilous times. Perilous times. And we could use several different adjectives in there, but I chose perilous because knowing and seeing what I have seen in these 55 years, I just turned 75 years old a couple of weeks ago. So, and now that I'm so old and mature, I think I would hope that I have not just learned, I've got a lot of letters after my name. Those don't mean a thing in the reality of real life. I've got 2 BAs, 1 master, 1 PhD, and 1 MD. And so when people come to visit, if they're in Brooklyn, when they've seen me on television or have heard me speak, they said, "Pastor Bill, we want to look at your PhD." I said, "Okay." They just automatically assume that it's framed in the office. I said, "No, you'll have to ride with me on Saturday, and then you get to see it." Because, let me say something. I drove the bus yesterday morning in Brooklyn to pick up the kids for Sunday school. I've been driving a bus for 55 years to pick up kids, poor kids. And so it seemed fitting to take the PhD and put it in the Sunday school bus that I drive. Because of all the accolades and awards and all the other foolishness that you pick up along this journey, the only thing that really matters is the moments that you have invested, and I use the word invested, in a child. And so at 75 years old, I've developed a louder voice. I always had a pretty big voice. Always said a lot of, that's why when I went to Brooklyn, and it's been 43 years ago, I went there by myself to start a Sunday school. Most of you know. Some of you don't know me. I was in the bathroom and some guy said, "Welcome." He didn't know me. He didn't know I was the guest speaker. It's kind of fun when you're the guest speaker and nobody really knows you, because then you can just kind of go to the bathroom in peace, which is always a bonus. And so I wanted you to know firsthand, because it's been a while since I've been here. But I wanted you to know what you're a part of. Whether it was me going to Brooklyn all those years ago, or doing what we do all over Africa, all over the world. Last week, we had 477,000 kids in Sunday school last week. I wanted you to know you're a part of that, and you've been part of it. We will be averaging over 500,000 kids in Sunday school every week by the first of next year. How does that happen? Let me explain to you how that happens. It's because for some, it's been a long obedience in the same direction. Just like her, just like him. We keep plowing. We keep plowing. I've watched a lot of people come and go in ministry. I've seen a lot of churches come and go. There are over 300 churches that closed their doors during COVID. I get it, folks. I get it. Understand? It's a tough time. But we've all been through tough times. If you've got any years on you at all, you can take this microphone and talk about things as well as I can. Yeah, I'm just the one that's got the mic today. So I do not take for granted this right here. I never have. I never have. I like to come to churches that still have a pulpit. Thank you, sir, for keeping the pulpit. So there's a lot that we can talk about today, but I want you to know what you have been a part of. It's been 20 years, folks. And I know many of you have sponsored children. Many of you have given to the ministry of Metro over the years. But I want you to know we're still on the front line. We're sitting here and they're finishing up Sunday school over there right now because of you. And I needed you to know that today before I go any farther, that it's because of you guys, this church, these folks right here that have believed in me, have believed in a vision that was a little bit off center 43 years ago when I moved to New York. And yet, out of all those tough years, the world's largest Sunday school has become a beacon. We're talking about footprint, the Metro footprint that's gone all over the world, and the fire that has come from the fire of a footprint of men and women that are sitting in this room that saw something that a lot of other religious people never really saw. But you guys saw it. And you guys saw it. And I thank you for that. And because of that, you've got a whole row of people that are from all over the world that have come to live now in New York and are serving and represent you because we are your missionaries. And that is the best way I can explain to you, the folks that you'll meet them at the back table, but we represent you. We represent Harvest Church, and I think we represent you guys pretty well all over the world. We're representing you on the Gaza Strip right now, right now. And so there's a few things back there at the back. You're really not a guest speaker unless you're selling something. So that's really what differentiates a guest speaker. They got to sell something. So not to be outdone by these other pinheads, I too have a little collection of missionary paraphernalia back there. And we'll be around here as long as we need to, just to chat with you answer any questions you got. If you've never read the book, Whose Child Is This? It'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, but it will force you to look at yourself through a different set of eyes. We are just finishing the last printing. We probably will not do another revision here. We added 3 more chapters for this. This is not the new one, but this will give you some good insight of what has happened over all these years from New York City to now all over the world. Who has never read this book? Let me see your hand. Never read. Well, that's disappointing. Okay. All right. Let me go back out here one more time. Let's see. Who has never read? Okay. Anybody that sits on the front row, you get the book. Merry Christmas. Thank you. Thank you. So there's a few other things back there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this may be of relevance for some of you. This is the only hardback book that I have done. It's a little book that I actually wrote for people that do small groups, kind of a discussion starter, kind of a thing, but it's a hardback, which is actually perfect because it's based on that American colloquialism, the 1,000-pound elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. Well, after over 50 years of ministry, I thought, there's a lot of elephants that people don't like to talk about in church. They're kind of like there, but nobody really wants to talk about it. So I got 50 elephants that I put together in this little book. Well, it turned into this little study guide that people are using all over the world. But it turned out great because if you share some of these principles, particularly of decision-making process and life decisions, somebody will get offended when you share these because you know how easily Christians are offended. You know how it goes. And so when you start sharing some of these principles, it's okay though, because it's a hardback. So when somebody gets offended, it's perfect. It's a book and a weapon. You can use it either way, whatever the situation calls for. So is there anybody that has a friend that just needs to be smacked in the head in Jesus' name? Oh, okay, here. We got the first row. They're fired up. Here you go. It's perfect.
I'll do it.
Okay, all right. Let me know how it goes. All right, please do. So there's a lot of things back there at the back table. I want to talk to you about these. I don't think I had these when I was with you guys last time. We have Sunday school in the garbage dump and the cemetery in downtown Manila in the Philippines. And several years back, I was in the dump and I was with some of our staff, and I was watching some of the ladies as they were watching the garbage truck emptying here in the dump. And I turned to one of the staff, I said, "What are they looking for?" And I assumed that they were just looking for food. It's called pugbug in Philippines, where they would get leftover food, particularly in the old restaurants, and they would take the leftover garbage food and they would wash it and just reheat it for their own families. And so I thought they were looking for food, but they were looking for glossy magazines. And then the staff explained to me what they do. They find the glossy magazine covers, they wet them, and they cut them into strips about that wide, roll them up, put a little rosin on them, and they put these little beads on the end, and they pull them together, and they sell these on the street in Manila. So they make these little necklaces and bracelets, and when I looked at these, I thought, okay, I'm just going to bring these with me, because, I drive the bus in New York Saturday for Sunday school. Now, our Sunday school 6 days a week. My day is Saturday. And then I catch on a flight to go somewhere to preach, and this is what keeps the work going all over the world, has for all these years. And so I thought, I'm just going to take these. So when you see these at the back, you can't get these on Amazon. These are made out of garbage. So you understand what you're looking at. I just ask people, if you want one, there's no set price for this. It's whatever you'd like to give. We send them many over there to the ladies so they can get their kids fed. And a lot of them, they've been able to get their kids in school because of them getting out like this. So when you see these, all I would say is just make sure whoever gets these, whether it's you or if you're getting it as a gift for somebody, that they pray. This is a reminder, folks, for people that are, you know what I'm saying, okay? So that's easy there. I'll say something on television, and it's when you're young, you don't have anything to say because you don't have enough experience, and your brain doesn't completely evolve until you're 27, 29 years old. So, but every once in a while, I'll say something, and somebody will hear me say, Pastor Bill, you need to put that on a T-shirt. So I did, and this may be something that some of you might like. It says, follow your heart, but take your brain along for backup. It's just something that just came out of my own brain, what's left of it. And so these are things that I've said, and there's just some funny things back there that you can take a look at it. But the most important thing are these pictures. And I will brag on you guys a little bit, because over these 20 years that I've been coming here to hang out with you guys, many of you have sponsored some of our kids. Some of you have sponsored kids in New York. Some of you have sponsored the Metro kids in Kenya and Philippines. I had somebody, it wasn't recently, but I know it's from here. They said, Pastor Bill, we want to go with you next time you go to the Philippines so we can visit our kid that we sponsor that lives in the garbage dump in the Philippines. So if any of you feel like you would ever like to go with me, some of the places I go, you can't obviously go. But something like the Philippines, in our last trip, I didn't tell anybody we were going to do it like this, because like on Friday, our Sunday school there works like it does in New York. It's all week. But the Sunday school on Friday is done in the North Cemetery. You've got 1,000 people that live in the cemetery. They don't visit it, they live there, on the tombs, in the empty graves. And so I didn't tell anybody that after they do Sunday school with us in the cemetery and they visited their sponsor kid, we were going to stay the whole night in the cemetery. I didn't tell them until I told them, we're going not back to the hotel. We're staying all night with the kids and their families at the cemetery. So if any of you ever wondered what it would be like to do that, I would, Karan, you were, come here. I wasn't going to, I forgot that she was with me before. And so she's a Georgia girl. And she, tell them a little bit about how your trip was in Philippines. How did that go?
I'm going to try not to cry too, though. Hi. Well, I went to the Philippines, and like Pastor Bill says, he don't tell you everything, okay? And I'm glad he didn't. Yeah, so it really impacted my life. That's why I met Yenny, and it really changed my life, like literally changed my life. I thought I was a bougie Christian after that. I was like, wow, I really need to get with the people. But we did two things that really impacted my life. One was the cemetery. We literally went and visited in the cemetery. They live in the cemetery, like the real cemetery. And we did Sunday school in the cemetery. And we ate out there. And the smells it's just like garbage the whole time that you're there. And after, Pastor Bill was like, well, do you want to go with us? Come on, you going? You going? Okay. And we went behind the cemetery where they take the bodies and once they want to sell it to somebody else, they just throw the bodies out. Nobody knows that. They even try to protect it. And when they saw us going back there, it was people that's like the snitches in the city that want to tell you, warn people, hey, get them out of here. They don't want us to see that. But Pastor Bill picked up skulls of people. They think their family is in the cemetery, but they're not. And so these are where the kids live. This is where we had Sunday school. But the most impactful thing that we did was go back to a place that we visited during the daytime to see how it was at night. And, Pastor Bill, he had to carry his peace with him because you don't know what's going to happen. And I was right next to him, okay, because he had that. But we was walking at night where you can't see nothing, guys. Like, these kids live literally where they're not seen. And we were walking through the night, and I just remember going through, and I'm thinking about myself. I'm like, okay, God, please, what's that? What's that? Ooh, what's that? Like, like that. But then I put my hand. I couldn't see anything, and I put my hand to the side, and there was a little boy standing there in the darkness. In the darkness. If we wouldn't even went by, he wouldn't even got a tap on the shoulder. He was in the darkness where you can't see, and that's where he lives, walking through that. Anything can happen to him. And I just stopped, and I was like, that's a kid. And that tore me up the whole time. I couldn't even finish the walk. I just was crying. He was like, you okay? It's so much to take in. And that's why it's like, I love what we do because it gets us out of our world, and you got to step in somebody else's world. In order to get the fire, in order to get the heart of what God feels, the heartbeat of what Jesus feels every day, he always stepped out of his world and put himself in somebody else's world. So that was my impact. Yeah.
Thanks, kiddo. Thanks, kiddo. Thank you. She didn't know I was going to have her come up here, but I remembered the first time when she had gone. So they'll be at the back there. If some of you have never sponsored a kid or never really thought about it, and I get it. You see stuff on TV. I see the same stuff. I get it. And people go, is that? It's like, and people kind of give me the dog look. You know what the dog look? It's when you're talking to your dog and your dog goes, okay, so people give me the dog look because they go, what? Okay, then go with me. Walk with me. Yeah, walk with me. Go what we're talking about. Whether it's in Brooklyn, whether it's Philippines, whether it's in Africa. And if you've ever thought, ever wondered, is it possible for one person to really make a difference? It's kind of that existential question where people ask in church, can anybody really make a difference? And you look at the mess, the foolishness that seems to be pervasive in our country, and you think, something's going to have to change. Something's got to change. We all know that. And how does that change? Yeah. And so it's been several years back. It was in the country of Haiti. And we had helped some folks that started an orphanage there. And at one time, the girl said, Pastor Bill, this little boy has been left outside of the orphanage, and we don't know what to do with him, and he's really in bad shape. So I talked about him a couple of times since I've been here. And I'll shorten it up a bit because I want to get to the end of it. And so we got him to the U.S., got the operation done, because I thought, let's just get him here. I know some Christian doctors. So we do the operation, and come on, give God a praise. Come on. You better get it, folks. You better get it. They did a pretty good job. And it's a great little kid. we always thought he had something going. But if nothing else, and the sponsor that helped put all this together, because they saw the picture, like you'll see the pictures of the kids there, and everybody was praying for him. Well, all this was happening about 9 years ago. Okay, so a lot of times people have a tendency of forgetting kind of what they did or what they saw or what. Well, then I got some pictures here not too long ago that little guy that nobody wanted. Because you know my story. You know my mother left me on the street corner when I was little. And the Christian man stopped, picked me up, got me some food, sponsored me to go to a Sunday school camp. And that's where I heard the story of Jesus for the first time. So it goes back to the question, can one person really make a difference? That ongoing question that we say we believe, but do we really believe it? Yeah, I get it. And so even when nobody wanted this little guy, yeah, I know how that feels. But some other people cared, and sponsor cared. And then I just found out that, Wendy, I think we have another picture there. Yeah. He's a Sunday school teacher now. And he's teaching the same kids just like he used to be. So take a good look, folks. Take a good look and see what happens when one person goes, I can't do everything, but I can do something. Just like the man that picked me up off the street. He saw something in me that my own mother never saw in me. She didn't want me. Well, one Christian man, he saw something. He got it. And because in 1960, when he picked me up off that street corner, he did not know that he was putting something into motion. He didn't get it. Nobody got it. But because one ordinary Christian stopped for me, people stopped for this guy. That now we're dealing with over 500,000 kids every week that hear the story of Jesus. Why? Because somebody cares. Because somebody chooses to stop. So that's what this is. Long story short, maybe not too long, but just for those of you that have been sponsors over the years, I thank you. That's your investment. What do they call in business? The ROI, is that right? Return on investment? Yeah. That's what that is. So it's $34 a month commitment. You can be as involved in the life of your sponsored child as you choose to be. The team will be back there. You can pick a kid. You can pick 1, 2, 5 kids, whatever. We had a couple of guys last week where I was preaching, and they said, well, I can do that. I can do some lady wanted to get 5 kids and sponsor them through their business. I don't know who's here. I don't know what the Lord puts on your heart, but if you can, they'll be back there. I appreciate it. And Pastor, as always, thank you for allowing me. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I was in central London several years back preaching. It was a Sunday morning, one of those old cathedral down in Central, and a double balcony. And I didn't realize it was the church that this had happened. So I'll use this as a bit of an intro, and then afterwards I'll meet you guys at the back. It was the same church where a missionary by the name of Robert Moffat had been preaching. Same, and the pulpit looked just like this. It's the same European style. And Moffat was preaching. He just came back from Africa. And he was trying to explain to the people what he had seen and the needs there. And he made a statement. He said, I just came back from Africa where I saw the smoke from 1,000 villages where the gospel had never been preached. I must say that again. It was one line that he had said in his introduction to the message that morning. He said, I saw the smoke from 1,000 villages where the gospel had never been preached. And in the balcony on that side, there was a young man. He had heard Moffat make that statement, the smoke from 1,000 villages. And in his mind's eye, he kind of visualized it. He could see it. And Moffat had done preaching, went to the back, was shaking hands. And the young man came out of the balcony, met Moffat at the back door, shook his hand. He said, Dr. Moffat, he said, what do you need? Do you need prayer? Do you need money? Do you need resources? What do you need? And Moffat looked at this young man. He said, I just need help. I just need help. Something happened at the back door of that church. I did not know that it was that church until I was there preaching. And then the pastor told me the story, showed me all the information. And so I walked, after I was done preaching, to the back door where all that happened 100 years before. And it clicked. In my mind, something of such great importance, which didn't seem like it was that important at the moment, and yet, with a handshake, my God, something happened. The smoke from 1,000 villages where the gospel had never been preached. And the young man said, I can help you. Oh, you may want to be very careful because I may be standing at the back door. You ain't laughing now, are you? Yeah, I know. The young man, his name was David Livingston. Everybody in this room should know that name. If you don't, shame on you. Everybody should know who David Livingston is. You can Google it. Used to be you had to read it, but now you can, whatever. Something happened at the back door of the service. It's what you and I would call a defining moment. Defining moments come in all shapes and sizes, don't they? Have you had a defining moment that something happened? It clicked something. I mean, I guess when the man picked me up off the street in 1960, I would have to say that was a defining moment. I was 12 years old. I'd sat on that corner for 3 days. Anybody could have picked me up. Gang member, drug dealer, pedophile, anybody could have picked me up. But the only one that stopped was the one ordinary Christian. He was actually driving to the hospital to visit his own son who was dying of leukemia. And yet, out of his own need, out of his own struggles, he'd seen me there for a couple of days. He walked across the street, and I remember he put his hand on my shoulder, and he just asked me, he said, "Are you okay?" That's it. That was the conversation. Are you okay? So when one ordinary Christian stopped and asked a little poor kid, "Are you okay?" he did not know that that was a defining moment. Not just for me, but for him. He didn't get, are you ready for those times? Because you don't know when a defining moment could come up and grab you by the throat and force you to do something, to ask a question, or become something that you would never, ever in 100 years think that would be you at the back door. Yeah. And because he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You okay?" Now, 500,000 kids will be coming to Sunday school all over the world. Why? Because there was a moment in time, a defining moment. And Livingston, he caught it, the smoke from 1,000 villages. And if you choose this afternoon, instead of taking your sacred Sunday afternoon nap, don't look at me. Don't give me the dog look, because I know exactly what you all do. I've done this too long, folks. Google it. Find out who David Livingston was, the young man who gave his life for the African people. And when they found him in the latter years, they found him dead in a rainstorm. The denomination said, "Oh, he's a hero." Kind of like that story you were telling me back in the office today. And they said, we're going to get him. We're going to bring him back to London. We're going to give him a hero's burial. But before the Africans took him to the coast of Mozambique, they took a knife and cut out his heart out of his dead body, put it in a metal box and locked it. They wrapped him up in sheets, walked him over 100 miles to the coast. If you ever get to London, go to Westminster Abbey. It's all a bunch of rooms. You get to the one room called the nave. David Livingstone's body is right there in Westminster Abbey. But if you ever get to Africa, on the Rwanda-Tanzania border, there's a tree, a little wooden sign. It was there the last time I saw it, and it says at the bottom of David Livingstone's, on this bottom of this tree, is David Livingstone's heart. That's where it's buried. It says his heart. His heart was always with us. Now it'll be with us forever. Oh, but you didn't know that. I get it. Thanks, Wendy. Why is all this relevant today? It's probably more relevant than it's ever been. Because defining moments literally will define you. Because most of you know when you're done with this life, you will only be the sum of all your decisions. I'm going to say that for some of you young people that don't quite have it together because you're too young. We love you, but just your life at the end of it all will be defined by nothing more on the basis of all the decisions that you have made. That's what you will be, is this collection of decisions that you have made, for better or for worse. That's what it ends up. The collection of decisions. So, Livingston gave his life for the African people. Body's buried in Westminster Abbey, but his heart's buried in Africa. And the Africans said, "We have to bury him here. His heart was always with us. Now it'll be with us forever." So what then becomes the real essence of decision making, of those moments, those defining moments? Flip over to 1 Corinthians 16. I'm going to look at one verse. And I've had to chew on this for quite a while, and it just seems appropriate for me to bring it to you guys today because of what's going on. Since 5 months ago when I got blown up, I got banged up pretty good. I've had 6 concussions. The 6th one was over there. So if I ask you your name at the back table, and then a couple seconds later I ask you again, I didn't remember. What becomes a defining moment for you? Is there something? Are you open to understand that it's still about ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things? The man who picked me up off the street, his own family did not understand him. You ever have family members that never really got you? Yeah, and you want to just... And so, Paul's talking here in this 16th chapter. He's already been there in Ephesus for 3 years. And it's all that story's in the book of Acts, chapter 31, I believe. And Paul said, I've been here for 3 years. He said, I need to stay here in Ephesus. I've got to stop. I want to go on to Macedonia. I'm going to go on, and I've got to do some of these other things. But he said, there's something about this place, Ephesus. Something is here. So I've got something I have to do. Is there anybody here that feels like there's something in you that you have to do that you haven't done yet? I'm asking you, is there something in you that you feel like the Holy Ghost has put inside you and it hasn't happened yet? It hasn't come to fruition yet. So you know in your gut, you can't finish this journey until it is what it is that He's put inside you. See, I thought when I was 65 and the ministry had gone the way it had gone, I thought, okay, this is probably best. This is good. It's been a good run. It's been a good journey. But now all of a sudden, and I wish, and maybe it's why I'm talking to you like this today, is because in these last probably year and a half, something has flipped. Suddenly a door has opened to us. And there was a lot of doors that have opened all over the world as things that, and I could sit and tell you guys stories for hours of what God has done, and whether the kids are individuals or these countries that have opened. And yet here we are at 75, and I'm thinking, because I was raised around the old Pentecostal missionaries. Because when I gave my life to Christ at the camp, the part of the story I never get to tell is my mother never came back. So they cleaned up a maintenance closet, put a piece of foam rubber in there, and I lived there for 3 years. I lived in the maintenance closet. And so every day, different people would bring their leftovers. That was my one meal a day, and I would do my homework in the church. So I've lived at the church for my whole life. Why do you think I look like this? I've lived at the church. Like some of you think you live at the church. No, like I live at the church. We all stay in one building. It's a big old, like an old nursing home building that was all, that's another story. There's so much stuff I want to tell you guys. And so in the midst of all of this, Paul is saying, he talked about a door that had been opened to him. And maybe that's what I want to throw to you. Maybe you want to make a few notes here. This may be worthwhile for you writing a couple of things down, because you may want to share this with some other folks. If it makes sense to you, and I'm not sure it will, but if it does, maybe you want to take it and kind of regurgitate it to somebody else that can maybe help them understand that it was a defining moment for David Livingston. He shook Moffat's hand, but it put him on a direction, a path. It was a door that had been opened to him, that his whole life was changed. And so we see Paul in the 16th chapter. He said in the 19th verse, for a great and effective door that has been opened unto me, comma, and there are many adversaries. I'm not going to talk to you in Greek today a lot. My Greek is better than my upstate New York. But I want to walk you through something that I hope, and Wendy's going to help us from the back room. You can't see her, but she's back there. You'll see her at the back table. And this will help you to maybe look at those defining moments, the defining door, and be ready for it so you don't get 50, 60, 70, 80 years old like I see people and they say, I wish. My God. I don't know about you folks. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say I wish I could have gone through the door that God had opened when it was open, but I'm not. And that's why I carry this thing in my bag. It becomes a little bit tough when you're going through the airport. But I carry this thing with me. I didn't take it from your church. I took it from home. But I thought it was the perfect illustration. And I'm going to be having this in my hand most of the time until I get back to the back table. And maybe, I think I'll leave this at the back table just in case some of you maybe want to, I don't know, maybe I'll let you make that decision. And Paul said there was a great and effective door. And I made up my mind. He said, I'm going to stay in Ephesus. I'm going to stay there until Pentecost because there's a great door, an effectual door that's opened unto me. And there are many adversaries. What kind of door was Paul talking about? What is this? What kind of door? We talk about the door at the back of the church in London. I use that as an introduction because it needed to be that. But now Paul is picking it up on a higher level. So let's look at it. I'm going to keep you in that one verse. But I have to ask you, are you ready? Are you ready to have your hand on the handle of the door that when God opens it for you, are you ready to walk through that door? And I guess I've really lived with my hand on the handle because I don't want to miss that door. That when God opens, I want to be ready. How about you? Only one life, and it'll soon be past. You know I've been shot twice. I've been thrown off of a building in New York. I've been in 3 plane crashes. And I've worked with Christians for over 50 years. You want to look? You know why I look like this? Yeah. I've been shot in the face. I've been shot in the back by a Russian sniper. Yeah, I got all that. But you know what? You can see all the scars. Even from this last thing when I got blown up. Yeah, I got banged up pretty good. They did a pretty good job at the 82nd. They fixed me up pretty good. But you can't see the other scars, can you? No, you cannot. And that's okay. Paul said, there's a great door that has been opened unto me. What kind of door is he talking about? I made some notes. I think he says it himself. I want to talk about, number one, the door of opportunity. The door of opportunity. What's Paul saying? He said, it's a great and effectual door. That word effectual, interesting word in English, but it's even more interesting when you start to read it in Greek, because basically what Paul is saying here, it's an effectual door, which is where we get our English word effect. He said, there's a door that has been opened to me that was designed to have an effect. Do you understand? Some do, maybe some of you don't. Do you understand that by being in this church, the door that God has opened to you to do something that's going to have an effect on people's lives? Do you really understand? Did the Christian man really understand the effect that when he got me a hamburger and a Coke and sponsored me that afternoon to go to the Sunday school camp, did he understand the effect that he had? No, he did not. And it took years for him to watch as I grew to be a man, went in ministry, and now the largest Sunday school in the world. None of us, I didn't know. I was 12. He didn't know. His kid was dying. He didn't get it. But there was a moment in time. Call it a kairos moment in the Greek. Call it whatever you want. There was a moment in time that there was a door that had been opened to him and me. And me. I didn't get it. Do you? Do you understand? Just by being at a great church like this, being around people, do you get it? God help us all. I didn't understand when I went to New York City at the beginning. I didn't get it. Oh, I was trying to survive, man. We were siphoning gas out of one bus to put it in another bus because we didn't have enough money to fill them both up with gas. So we had to suck the gas out of one, put it in the other one, and then when we had a couple of buses blown up, oh yeah, we'll turn this into story hour before this thing's over because we can do it. I can tell you our stories all day. But that's all right. I don't want you to be late for your nap. It's a door of what? It's a door of opportunity. What do they call those things now? Influencers. The influencers. And I thought, I wish we had some Christians that decided that they were going to be an influencer for Jesus Christ. To influence a city, a school, a nation, a workplace. Slap somebody and say, be an influencer for Jesus. Somebody needs to understand when the door is open, you got two calls, folks. You either see and look at it and go, oh, it's just a door. Or you can say, my hand is going to be on the handle so that when the door is open, somebody is going to go through it. It's a door of opportunity. Paul said, it's a great and effective door. It has an effect. It was designed to have an effect. What do you realize the effect that this church has of this area? Do you get it? Well, I tell you what, I'm going to slap somebody before this thing's over. Do you understand the effect that this church has had over all these years in this part of the world? Somebody's hand better be on the handle, because when God opens the door for you, where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing? Are you saying, I don't know. Somebody better have their hand on the handle. Paul said, I can't leave Ephesus. There's something here. I'm not done here yet. I'm not done. I don't know. God has opened some doors to us. He's opened some doors to us that no man can close. But when it's open, you can either go through it or you can stand there and look at it and wish I should have had. It's a door of opportunity. It's an effective door. Number two, it's a door of obligation. It's a door of obligation. What is this door that Paul's talking about? This word, this opened, it's a verb in the Greek. It's in the perfect tense in the Greek language, which means somebody opened that door. There was an active force that had opened the door. It was God. And And Paul knew it. And by the way, when you know that God opened that door for you, you have an obligation to go through it. I'm going to stay here for just a second on this. I'm going to ride this horse for a minute. When you understand that God sovereignly has opened you better have your hand on the handle, my friends. You wonder? You know who the most productive demographic is in American Christianity today? Middle-aged people in their 50s and 60s. Oh, you ain't saying nothing now, are you? Nah, I knew you wouldn't. I'm going to hit you with the handle before this thing's done. Because when you reach that 50, 60, 70, you suddenly realize that the days you have left to live are now less than the days that you've already lived. Oh, you said something then. Yeah. So when suddenly you see the door, that it's a door of opportunity, when you understand that God has opened the door, you better have your hand on the stinking handle. Because once it's opened, guess what? You may not have another shot at it, my friends. You may not have the next shot. But number 3 and last, it's a door of opposition. It's a door of opposition. And this is the part that most preachers really don't get this. And quite honestly, I didn't either until I researched it. Because in the B part of that verse, and there are many adversaries, and I kind of got it in the English. When you read it in English and there's opposition, adversaries, it's going to be tough. But when you read that in the Greek, it's quite interesting. It's basically saying that the same door that's open to you and I, if you don't go through it, the adversaries will. I'm going to say it one more time. I want to make sure you don't miss this. And that's a door of opposition. Yeah, because the same door that you see that God is opening to you and this church and this ministry and all of you as individuals and collectively what's happening in this place on a regular basis. But what's happening here, the devil knows and he can see it as well. And that's why we all have to start speaking with a louder voice. Somebody in Christianity has got to talk with a louder voice. Our team right here, they're all Sunday school people right there. And they know it's a door of opposition. It's a door that is opened. It's a door opened. It's that simple, folks. You say, well, you shouldn't talk like that. Well, you know what? I've got the mic and you don't. That's the difference. I talk with a really, really loud voice. And it's gotten louder the older I get. Because I live it. I watch it. I'm in these places all over the world. And you see it. That's why we have got to say, as for me and my house, because I think you had a sign out there that says that, as for me and this house and our house together, we're going to do something for God because our hand is going to be on the handle. So when God opens the door for us, let's get it. Let's get it, folks. Let's get it. Time is short. Either you believe in the second coming or you don't. You'll be hard-pressed in Pentecostal churches all over this country to even hear the preacher talk about hell or the second coming. You can't hear it, folks. They don't want to say it. They don't want to offend somebody. I'm going to offend you. I hope you do. I hope I do. I'm going to offend somebody. I'm not doing my job unless I irritate somebody. Make you have the dog look. Paul said it was a great and effective door. It's a door of opportunity. It's a door of obligation, and it's a door of opposition. But the same door that's open for you, the opposition is watching. They're waiting. They're waiting for that door. And unless somebody steps up and says, we're going to do something. We're going to do something. We're going to do something. That's where we are, folks. I guess that's all I got to say today. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for being with me all these years. All these years. All these years.